Imagine a car created by a former Lamborghini test driver, funded by the father of disco music, and designed by the man responsible for the Miura, Countach, and the original Diablo shape. A car so outrageous that even by late 1980s supercar standards, it looked almost unreal. A machine with 4 pop-up headlights, a body wider than most parking spaces, and a naturally aspirated 16-cylinder engine mounted sideways behind the seats. This was the Cizeta V16T, one of the rarest, wildest, and most forgotten supercars ever built. It looked like a Lamborghini Diablo from an alternate universe, sounded like 2 Italian V8s screaming in harmony, and existed in such tiny numbers that even today, most enthusiasts have never seen one in person. It was not just a car. It was a statement, a declaration of war against Ferrari, Lamborghini, and every established exotic manufacturer of its time. The story begins with Claudio Zampoli, a man deeply connected to Lamborghini's golden era. Before creating Cizeta, he worked as a development engineer and test driver for Lamborghini, helping shape some of the most legendary machines of the 70s. He was involved in the world of Miura, Countach, and the raw mechanical insanity that made Lamborghini famous. Later, he moved to Los Angeles, where he opened a successful workshop specializing in servicing and selling exotic Italian cars for wealthy clients, celebrities, and collectors. But Zampoli never wanted to remain only a mechanic for the rich. He had a bigger dream. He wanted to build his own supercar, not a copy of Ferrari, not another Countach clone, but something even more extreme. Something that would make headlines around the world. The company name came from the Italian pronunciation of his initials, C and Z, Cizeta. Even the brand itself was a personal signature. The second key figure was Giorgio Moroder, one of the most famous music producers in the world, and the man often called the father of disco. Moroder had worked with legendary artists, won Academy Awards, and shaped the sound of the 80s with both pop music and film soundtracks. He was also a passionate car enthusiast and a customer of Zampoli's workshop. Their shared love for Lamborghini and exotic machinery quickly turned into serious discussions about creating a new supercar together. Moroder became the financial backer of the project, while Zampoli provided the engineering vision. The original company was called Cizeta Moroder, combining Zampoli's initials with Moroder's celebrity name. The goal was simple but incredibly ambitious: build an Italian supercar that would surpass everything else on the road. For the design, Zampoli turned to one of the greatest automotive stylists of all time, Marcello Gandini. This was the same man who designed the Lamborghini Miura, Countach, Lancia Stratos, and many other icons. The reason the Cizeta looks so much like the Lamborghini Diablo is not a coincidence. Gandini had originally created a much more aggressive design for the successor to the Countach, but after Chrysler took control of Lamborghini, they considered his design too extreme and softened it significantly. Zampoli loved the original, wilder version. He wanted something uncompromising. Gandini happily reused and adapted that vision for Cizeta. The result was stunning. The front was low, sharp, and aggressive. The car had 4 pop-up headlights instead of 2, huge side air intakes, dramatic rear wheel arches, and a body so wide it looked almost unreal. It was over 2 meters wide, not because of fashion, but because the engine demanded it. And that engine was the true star of the show. The name V16T tells the whole story. But many people misunderstand the T. It did not stand for turbo. There was no turbocharging at all. The T stood for transverse. The engine was mounted sideways behind the cabin, creating a T-shaped drivetrain layout with the longitudinal 5-speed ZF transaxle. This 6-liter V16 was one of the most ambitious engines ever fitted to a road car. It had 16 cylinders, 64 valves, 8 camshafts, and an architecture inspired by Lamborghini's V8 engines. In simple terms, it was like combining 2 high-revving Italian V8s into one massive mechanical monster. It produced around 540 to 560 horsepower at 8,000 revolutions per minute and about 540 Newton-meters of torque. For the late 1980s, these numbers were absolutely insane, especially for a naturally aspirated engine. The sound was unlike anything else on the road. It did not sound like a Ferrari V12 or an American V8. It sounded like two racing engines working together at full intensity just behind your head. Giorgio Moroder, a man who understood sound better than almost anyone, surely appreciated that mechanical symphony. The V16T was not designed for efficiency or practicality. It was designed for drama. Every startup, every throttle input, every tunnel drive was supposed to feel like an event. This was not transportation. It was theater. Performance figures were exactly what you would expect from something this extreme. The Cizeta V16T could accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in around 4.2 to 4.5 seconds, depending on the source, and top speed was approximately 328 kilometers per hour, over 200 miles per hour. That placed it directly in competition with Ferrari F40, Lamborghini Diablo, Porsche 959, and Jaguar XJ220. It was not necessarily the most refined car dynamically. It was heavier than some rivals, weighing around 1,700 kilograms, and it lacked the advanced electronics or all-wheel drive systems found in some competitors. But refinement was never the point. The Cizeta was built to shock people. It was a supercar that wanted to dominate every room, every street, and every conversation. Underneath the dramatic bodywork, the engineering was surprisingly traditional. Zampoli believed in mechanical purity. The chassis was a chrome moly tubular steel space frame, not a carbon fiber monocoque. The body panels were hand-formed aluminum, not fiberglass or composite shortcuts. Independent suspension at all four corners, Koni dampers, Brembo brakes, and massive Pirelli P0 tires completed the package. The interior was luxurious rather than futuristic. Thick leather, air conditioning, analog gauges, and a comfortable two-seat layout made it feel more like an exotic grand tourer than a stripped race car. Zampoli believed drivers did not need endless electronics or screens. They needed a steering wheel, a manual gearbox, and a screaming V16 behind them. The first prototype, Chassis 001, was unveiled on December 5, 1988, during a glamorous event in Los Angeles, hosted by Jay Leno. Moroder even composed a special song for the reveal called "A Car is Born." The prototype was finished in pearl white with bright red leather interior and became the only car in the world officially badged as Cizeta Moroder. It later appeared at the Los Angeles Auto Show and the Geneva Motor Show, instantly becoming one of the most talked about supercars of the era. This prototype also featured several unique design details that never appeared on production cars, including different side intakes, mirrors, lights, and a completely different interior layout. It was fully functional, not just a static showpiece, and later underwent a full restoration by Canepa Design in California to return it to perfect driving condition. Unfortunately, the partnership between Zampoli and Moroder did not last. Moroder became frustrated with delays and the growing costs of the project. He reportedly wanted to simplify the car, use fiberglass bodywork, and even replace the complex V16 with a more conventional BMW engine. For Zampoli, that was unacceptable. The entire point of the car was to be outrageous and unique. A compromise would destroy the dream. The two men separated. Moroder left the project, and his name disappeared from all production cars. From that moment on, the car was simply called the Cizeta V16T. Production finally began in the early 1990s, but timing could not have been worse. The global supercar market was entering a recession. Buyers became cautious, and even established brands struggled. Cizeta had no dealer network, no major factory backing, and no massive marketing machine. Each car was built largely by hand in Modena, near the home of Ferrari and Maserati, by small specialist workshops and former Lamborghini craftsmen. It was beautiful, but brutally expensive and difficult to produce. Originally, Zampoli dreamed of making up to 100 cars per year. Reality was much harsher. Depending on the source, only around 9 production cars were completed, plus the original prototype, bringing the most accepted total to 10. Some later sources count additional cars completed in California, and the rare Finis TTJ Spider, bringing the total closer to 11 or 12. Either way, the Cizeta V16T remains one of the rarest production supercars ever made. Some examples went to extraordinary owners, including the Sultan of Brunei's family, who purchased several of them for their legendary collection. One right-hand drive blue example, Chassis 101, remained stored in Singapore for over 25 years, with barely 1,000 kilometers on the odometer before returning to the market. Today, the value of a Cizeta V16T reflects its rarity and its incredible story. A standard production example has sold for around $665,000, while the original Cizeta Marauder prototype chassis 001 sold at RM Sotheby's for $1,363,500. That makes sense. It was the first car, the only one carrying Marauder's name, the launch star of 1988, and one of the strangest supercars ever built. Many collectors believe the Cizeta is still undervalued compared to rare Ferraris and Lamborghinis of the same era. After all, how many 16-cylinder, hand-built, Gondini-designed supercars exist in the world? Almost none. What makes the Cizeta truly fascinating is not just the engine or the styling. It is the idea behind it. This was a car built because one man refused to accept limits. Claudio Zampoli did not want to follow Ferrari or Lamborghini. He wanted to outdo them. He wanted something louder, wider, rarer, and more unforgettable. Giorgio Moroder added celebrity and spectacle. Marcello Gandani added visual violence. Together, they created a machine that felt less like a product and more like a challenge thrown directly at the entire supercar industry. The Cizeta V16T did not save a company. It did not become a commercial success. It did not rewrite automotive history the way Ferrari F40 or McLaren F1 did. But it became something else. A legend. A giant what-if. A reminder that sometimes the greatest cars are not the ones built by giant corporations, but the ones created by stubborn dreamers who simply refuse to be reasonable. And in that sense, the Cizeta Marauder V16T may be one of the greatest supercars ever made.